crossroads at Cross River, the needs of a local population versus the efforts to save the last of Nigeria's rainforests. Can there be a common ground?
Somewhere out there in the forest is the Cross River gorilla. It's the rarest in the world and also the most endangered.
And one of the world's rarest creatures caught in the middle. Christian Purefoy goes in search of the Cross River gorilla. Those stories and much more this week on Inside Africa. Hello and welcome to Inside Africa. I'm Aisha Sasay. The Cross River State, a patch of southeastern Nigeria that's a window into what much of the country once looked like. Lush lowland rainforests, home to some of the world's most endangered species. But the region is also home to millions of people who rely on the land for their survival. Only 10% of Nigeria's rainforests remain, making Cross River the final battleground in the fight to save the last of the forests. And it's here we find our own Christian Purefoy alongside a small but dedicated task force working around the clock to save one of the world's true ecological gems.
A midnight raid to save the environment, one tree at a time. A small anti-deforestation task force in southeast Nigeria is cracking down on the problem of rampant illegal logging that is threatening the region's last rainforest.
If you come down, count yourself dead.
They don't care about how the rest of the population feels. Theirs is just get the forest, get all the trees down, cut it into flitches and make short-term cash.
We're at an illegal wood market and there's actually too much wood for these guys to load up into the 3 or 4 trucks that we've got. So there's going to be some really angry businessmen arriving here in probably a couple of hours' time in the morning. So they're trying to call in some extra security.
The task force, whose members come from the army and local police, estimates the wood seized in tonight's raid alone is worth around $75,000.
So you can see here all the grooves. This is from the chainsaws that they use. These things, in just almost one go, guy with a chainsaw goes straight down all the way, cutting a plank, and this is pretty much how they're taken and sold and then even used, maybe even for somebody's house.
However, most of those arrested are just locally hired labourers. The men financing and organising the illegal logging
You are under arrest.
live in the cities and rarely visit the logging sites. And in dawn's early light, it becomes apparent the loggers are just a small part of the problem.
This forest region is one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet, stretching from here all the way down the coast of West Africa. But it's under threat, say conservationists, from the constant encroachment of small-scale farming like this.
Trying to protect a forest roughly the size of Ireland, the local government has taken the drastic step of banning any logging in the region.
How bad is it?
Is very discouraging, because if this level, the current level of deforestation is allowed to continue, we can as well forget about forests in Cross River State and by extension Nigeria in the next 5 to 6 years.
That's soon.
That's it. I'm being very frank about it.
And if the government's to protect the forest, it needs some cooperation from the people who live there.
They live in the forest, they live on the forest, they live by the forest. We need to make a connect between their welfare, their lives, their prosperity with the forest. So that's the task, to make that, and make that connection to respond to their needs in the immediate and even in the long time.
But if the people and the government are at loggerheads, with no other industry to fall back on, the only needs locals are worried about is how they're going to make a living after the government seizes their wood.
Some people will survive, some will not survive. Some will go by stealing. So if all of us can be frustrated to that level, we can burn everything down.
And the night raids are adding to people's distrust. The wood is offloaded at the police station to be sold on the legitimate commercial market. But there are allegations the wood is being sold back to the illegal wood barons who live in the cities. The government is investigating possible corruption.
The police are not interested in whatever the task force is doing. What interests them is what they can kite from the dealers, conspire against the members of the task force for their own pockets, to swell their pockets. They need money, and quick money. They look at the task force as an avenue for making money. And we say no, we don't need them any longer.
The governor warns that more drastic measures may be needed to protect the forests.
But ultimately, some of these communities must be relocated. There are communities that are relatively undeveloped and backward and unexposed. And yes, it's good they're in the forest, but there may be a need for us to start looking at relocating them in their own interest, especially if we must continue to preserve those forests.
But with a higher population density than China, providing the resources Nigeria's 150 million people need for everything from cooking to housing creates a huge challenge for any plan to save the forests.
Population boom is a big challenge for us. I have always been of the view that we do need, as a government, both at the state and federal level, to start to communicate a message of control, which we're not doing. So the rate of growth of our population sometimes is at par with the rate of growth of the economy. And what that means is that you don't grow. So yes, it's a big issue.
Adding urgency to the task force difficult balancing act between protecting the environment and the needs of the people. Christian Purefoy, CNN, Cross River, Nigeria.
They were once thought to be extinct when Inside Africa returns, searching for the last remaining Cross River gorillas.